Secondly, a man given to redemption, love, and healing grace. A man who served the purposes of God in his generation, then he died. Acts 13:36. David Wilkerson, the trailblazing pastor turned street evangelist and founder of Teen Challenge, died tragically on Wednesday, April the 27th at age 79 in a car accident in Texas. He leaves his wife Gwen, who survived the accident, and several family members. But he also leaves a church in Times Square and a drug recovery ministry, Teen Challenge, that has resulted in lives changed around the world. His story was first told in the best-selling 1963 book, The Cross and the Switchblade. His son writes, "Dad's 60-plus years of ministry have impacted the lives of those closest to him and extended to millions around the world." David Wilkerson was known for his unlimited faith. He believed God could change the lives of gang members and transform the most desperate drug addicts. He believed that a dynamic church could be launched in the heart of Times Square, New York City. He believed he could be a man who loved his wife and children well, and he did. End of quote. Wilkerson's last mission on earth was to be an advocate for the poorest of the poor, to provide relief and hunger and support for hungry children and widows and orphans. After founding Teen Challenge, World Challenge, and Times Square Church, he sought to feed starving children in the most impoverished countries of the world. Today, Please Pass the Bread is saving the lives of thousands of children through 56 outreaches in 8 countries. Here's what's interesting. David Wilkerson's influence in our world began with a question. Years ago, Wilkerson was up late, as usual at midnight, watching The Late Show. When he first asked the question, "What would happen, Lord, if I sold the TV set and spent that time praying?" After Wilkerson prayed that prayer in 1958, the world would soon find out. What would happen, Lord, if I? Well, you fill in the blank. After Wilkerson's television was sold, he began to devote his midnight to 2 a.m. hours to prayer. One night while trying to pray, he found himself unusually drawn to an issue of Life magazine sitting on his desk. At first, he suspected his interest in reading to be merely a human diversion, pulling him away from the discipline of prayer. Nonetheless, he couldn't get away from it and finally asked, "God, is there something you want me to see?" What Wilkerson saw in that issue of Life was destined to change his own life and that of so many others. He read the report of a gang on trial in New York City. He recalls the story. "My attention was caught by the eyes of one of the figures in the drawing, a boy, one of 7 boys on trial for murder. The artist had caught such a look of bewilderment and hatred and despair in his features that I opened the magazine wide again to get a closer look. And as I did, I began to cry. 'What's the matter with me?' I said aloud, impatiently brushing away a tear. I looked at the picture more carefully. The boys were teenagers. They were members of a gang called the Dragons. Beneath their picture was the story of how they had gone into Highbridge Park in New York and brutally attacked and killed a 15-year-old polio victim named Michael Farmer. The story revolted me," said Wilkerson. "It turned my stomach. In our little mountain town, such things seemed mercifully unbelievable. That's why I was dumbfounded by a thought that sprang suddenly into my head, full-blown as though it had come to me from somewhere else. Go to New York City and help those boys." The eternal summons Wilkerson felt in that prayer time soon led the skinny 26-year-old Pennsylvania pastor from the mountains of Phillipsburg to the streets of New York. From tending a local church to to advocating for gang members and drug addicts in a courthouse. His ministry caught fire throughout the New York area and around the world. In the 1960s and 70s, it took form as a Christian addiction recovery program called Teen Challenge, a network of social and evangelistic training and work centers. Wilkerson's journey spawned his best-selling book, The Cross and the Switchblade. With 15 million copies now sold worldwide in 30 languages, and a 1970 film starring Pat Boone, which a reported 50 million people have seen. Christianity Today included the book in its 2006 list of the top 50 books that have shaped evangelicals. The question, what would happen, Lord, if I? What would happen, Lord, if I? Well, you fill in the blank. I want to know what you would say. Telephone lines are open. The number to call live in the studio, 1-855-588-CALL. Here's the man of redemption, love, and healing grace.
The fear of drugs and alcohol and the losing of children here throughout Canada. This plague is sweeping, and I don't have to be a sensationalist. I've been on this for 28 years, and I don't have to prove to anybody that my heart's in this. I know what God is saying to my heart. And some of your parents that are watching now, you're scared to death. I have 4 children, I have 5 grandsons. And I look at my precious little grandsons, and my heart breaks. And I want to pray for you. And I want to tell you, parents, right now that you need to know Jesus in a way that you can talk to Him and build a wall around your children. It's not just communication. It's knowing Christ in a real way. And I invite you first, Dad and Mother, to get your life straightened out so that you'll have a contact with the Lord. Really, I don't want to alarm anybody, but the kids are falling left and right. Thousands, not just thousands, but millions. 85% of our children have tried drugs in one way or another in the United States, and they say there may be as many as 60% here in Canada of the high school children have tried drugs. And if they have that curiosity in them, then in a time of crisis, they're going to turn to that.